possibilities for the United States putting a maglev system on top of all the interstate systems?
Okay, interesting question. A couple of responses. Maglev generally is, aside from the costs and all that, is generally useful for longer distances because you need some time, to get the benefit out of it. I can talk about two things. Two studies that were done that I'm aware of for the United States for maglev. Someone had the idea, and I know a consultant that did this study. Why don't we put either high-speed rail or maglev, whichever one, along to connect New York and Boston along the right-of-way of the New York State Thruway and then the Massachusetts Turnpike. Existing rights-of-way above those arteries and be very quick between New York and Boston. Again, leaving out the matter of economics, whether you could pay for it, and all the cost factors, the study floundered on the fact that the geometry that is needed for that kind of high speed, the curves are so flat that you couldn't stay within the right-of-way. In other words, the right-of-way, no matter how high speed the Thruway and the Mass Pike are, the right-of-way is not flat enough to stay within the right-of-way. So you would have to acquire additional right-of-way on both sides of the Thruway and the Mass Pike. Now,
You're talking changes in elevation?
yes, but you would have to be off the,
Curves?
curves, horizontal alignment, not vertical. Yes, the horizontal curves had to be so flat that you couldn't stay within the right-of-way of those superhighways. Now, of course, you could say, we'll just draw a straight line. You talk about right-of-way taking, just go. So they were trying to do it and minimize the right-of-way taking. Now, the other study that I'm aware of, in Pittsburgh, the Port Authority of Allegheny County, which has built what they call the PATways, which are busways and light rail rights-of-way in the Pittsburgh area. They also control the airport in Pittsburgh. They talked about building a maglev to the airport from some suburban area. I don't think it was longer than 25 miles, which in my opinion is too short for maglev. But I know they were doing a study. I haven't heard that they're going ahead with it, so I assume they're still doing a study. I don't know. Those are the two things that I know of. The only other thing I can think of is in California. There have been proposals to connect the Los Angeles area with Las Vegas by maglev. They are building or talking about building a section of high-speed rail in there. Well, I guess that's between Los Angeles and San Francisco.
No, they're also talking about something.
But I'm not aware of other studies on that. Certainly nothing being built. Now, Japan has built it. China has a maglev going to I believe to the Shanghai airport that is operating. When you get into China, I have no idea what the economics are. If they decide in China to build it, they just build it. I don't think they do it. I don't think they call it, cost-benefit analysis and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. And of course, just a gratuitous comment, but their high-speed rail has been subject to a few problems, like bad accidents. Anyway, that's what I know about maglev. Any other comments or points or debates? I mean, yes.
From your experience, and you offered a lot during the presentation. You offered a lot during the presentation in terms of managed lanes and the Gateway project. Under your estimation and experience in the industry, do you see anything coming this way in the next, say, 20 years with long-range planning or programs?
Well, I have to reveal a bias, or at least a belief, and maybe it's a belief out of frustration. With advocating something for 15 years, and I have other things that I've advocated that didn't get done. I do have a couple of things that did get done, but you can't win them all, But in my opinion, based on what I see happening in this area, this region, and this is true from New York and New Jersey, is entirely very Manhattan-centric. They don't pay much attention to what's happening in the suburbs or in the outlying areas. That doesn't get the big magazine articles in New York Magazine, you know? So for example, you see the East Side access into the Long Island Railroad, which is a project that's been proposed for 30 or 40 years, maybe 50 years. I mean, the tunnel, the 68th Street tunnel under the East River was completed in 1968. So first getting around to doing it. The Arc Tunnel is not happening, but some other substitute for it might happen. Again, Manhattan. I don't know, I'm trying to think of things that are big that are outside of Manhattan, outside of serving Manhattan.
Hudson-Bergen.
Hudson-Bergen, okay, that's good.
That's north-south.
It is, but it serves all the subways, all the things that go into Manhattan, a large part of it. You know, you come in on a railroad, you go to Path. I'm talking about sort of in New York City, outer borough kinds of things. Anyway, that's my bias, that's my perception. So to answer your question, I've gotten a lot of reaction that these are great ideas, but nobody wants to get off the dime. I'll give you another example. One of my countless meetings about the Gateway Project was with a community planning board in Brooklyn, Community Board 9. I went down there one night. They saw an article I did about it in the IT newsletter, which I didn't show you a copy of. They saw the article about Brooklyn Way and all that, and they said they'd be interested in a presentation. So I went down there. I did a slide presentation. It wasn't even digital. I'll tell you how far back it was. It was actual slides. And so they said, gee, is this going to take truck traffic off of Atlantic Avenue? This is Community Board, that's where Atlantic Avenue is. I said, yes. We're for this. We think it's a great idea. This is local community planning board. Of course, this is not the people in Flatbush where, you know, near Brooklyn College where the Bay Ridge line runs, which as far as I'm concerned would have minimal impact because it would be depressed and covered. But, so I said, well, if you think this is a great idea, you're one of the community boards in Brooklyn. The community boards together in any borough, they report to what is called the borough board. They have that consolidates all the activities of all the individual community boards. And they then report to the borough president or to the city, to the mayor. I said, why don't you write a letter from this community board to the borough president of Brooklyn, telling him that you think this is a good idea and that this should be presented to the next meeting of the borough board. I have a copy of that letter, and that's what I have. Nothing ever happened. So you'll forgive me for being a bit pessimistic. I don't know how else to answer you. Meanwhile, I can tell you so many other places that have been doing. You can go to, it's in the news now, there's a big strike at the Port of Los Angeles, Long Beach. Is it still on? It's over?
It's over. It was settled yesterday.
Yesterday, I'm sorry. See, I haven't been up to date. I was busy with this, but that port, they built what's called the Alameda Corridor. I don't know how many millions or billions of dollars that was. To great separate all the rail access into the port. Great idea. They did it. I can't get this thing done, which would have a lot of benefits for freight because it would give you the double stack clearance. It would tie in with the tunnel. If anybody, I mean, in my opinion, the tunnel is great, but it would be even better if the tunnel is built together with an improvement on the Bay Ridge line so that you could do some things after you get out of the tunnel. Bob?
I mean, to link two parts of your presentation, I mean, isn't the problem of projects later?
Wait a minute. He's giving you the microphone.
Lee, I was wondering if there's a continuity between your two presentations. One is that you had a series where the region evolved. It was a sun growth region. It had a lot to, you know, it was growing economically, so there was some impetus behind it. But what you had at the top was a process leader. You know, someone where you could take these ideas to, who would create, you know, who had the vision and the political connection to drive it through. I mean, isn't that the problem? Is that we don't have anyone at the top You know, we've become more democratized with like the community boards, but to try to grow, you know, to grow something from the grassroots and send it down, there's something missing, some
Well,
leadership link.
I agree with you, but I'm going to sound like, you know, a dinosaur here. One of the, I had an interview this morning, so I can't remember what I said in the interview and what I said here. I think I said this in the interview. There's a spectrum. If you can picture a spectrum. On the one side, you have little or no community participation, action. On the other side, you have all community participation. I mean, these are extremes. No action. A lot of discussion, a lot of studies. We need to get somewhere in the middle. And it almost sounds like, you know, that in order to get something done, you have to have somebody who can sort of ramrod things through. I'm not advocating necessarily going back to Robert Moses. I can't bring him back from the dead anyway. And even if he came back from the dead, today's environment doesn't fit his style. Wouldn't get anywhere. But certainly there's got to be some, you know, happy medium, I don't know what you call it. Someplace where, you know, you can have community participation, but where does that become Tower of Babel? I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Well, just to jump around here, some of the things that are being talked about at the federal level, about reducing the federal role in transportation, you know, at Washington, giving more of the activities to the states. Well, we could go, is that going to take us back to the 20s or the 10s, where the states, sometimes the roads didn't meet at state lines? You know, I suppose there would be some coordination, but you need some kind of unifier, leader, as you said. And on a small scale, that's why I talked about State Senator Norman Levy with those HOV lanes. I still believe it's a miracle in the environment that we have even 20 years ago, which is when he started doing this, that those things got done. Because there were plenty of opposition to it, and somehow he pushed it through. Being the, maybe because he was the leader of the State Senate Transportation Committee, I don't know. But you need someone who can say we're going to do it, and yet get other people to buy into it. And that maybe that's the key to it. Does everybody have to buy into it? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. Any other thoughts or things we can kick around, beat to death, you might say? I hope I wasn't too pessimistic. Maybe I was realistic.
Well, the main thing I want to do is thank Lee for his time and for sharing his expertise with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope you'll agree that they don't make them like this, and so Lee, we really do appreciate
Thank you, Mary.
all the all the wisdom and the encyclopedic knowledge that you bring with you to this forum, and we look forward to having you back again. So,
Okay. Thank you.
We're done, and thank you all, and round of applause.